recording. Hi, everyone. This is Jo Massaro with the Yahweh Sisterhood Book Club. I'm so excited today because Ben Cooper is with us, and this is not the first time he's been with us, so it's going to be a fun time. I'm Jo Massaro with Jo Massaro Ministries, and part of what I do is interview authors under our book club. And I just want to say a warm welcome and Merry Christmas to Ben Cooper.
Well, thank you, Jo. Yeah, this is my second time, and I appreciate the friendship that's developed since that time, because there's no community I've found like the Christian writer community that support each other, and especially not just in their products or their books, but in prayer and encouragement as well. And you've been that support for me too, so I appreciate that. We met after release of my first book, All Nature Sings, and a year ago, November, I had no vision whatsoever to write a children's story or a children's book. It just wasn't in my wheelhouse. It wasn't something that I was planning on doing. And at a Christian Writers Conference in Ohio, I talked to an agent, and they said, maybe you can convert All Nature Sings to a children's book. And so that just put a challenge, laid down the challenge in front of me. And last year, probably right about this time, I was actually pitching a publishing company where Serious Writer has 12 Days of Christmas. They're doing it again this year, but I was pitching a publisher with this idea. They liked the idea, but they weren't in favor necessarily. Their books weren't ones that were actually educational and teaching. They taught good morals, but they liked animals that wore clothes and spoke English language or whatever language it translated to. And that isn't where my heart was. It was to be an educational devotional for the small kids. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how Created Critters with Wings was birthed, through an idea of an agent. And I worked on it. And then, of course, we all know COVID hit.
Yes.
And it kind of slowed things down. I was able to pitch to another publishing company in North Carolina at a Christian Writers Conference. They really liked the idea, but because of COVID, they weren't accepting anymore. So I kind of stalled for 6 months, not quite 6 months, and then latched on to a brand new publishing company that's Shine the Light. Mm-hmm. And they were only about a year old in existence when I signed with them. You know, Created Critters with Wings is their first and my illustrator's first children's picture book.
Well, let me just say that the book is so amazing, and let's talk, and you can see the cover, right next to me. The illustrations are absolutely beautiful.
Sandy Arnold and I go back. She did illustrations, some of them in my first book. She did a portion of them. My kids did. They were just sketchings. That's what I wanted. And she did about 6 of them in my first book. And prior to that, she actually took one of my beekeeping classes and attended it. So she's a 3rd-generation beekeeper. And so and that goes to play with some hidden things in Created Creatures. But she and I worked together on a veterans promotional project for our local beekeeping club. She put 80 hours into painting a beehive, just spectacular. Wow. And we raffled that off to earn money, basically to build a fund to support veterans that were interested in getting into beekeeping. So Sandy and I have multiple things going on that we've worked on, and she is amazing. And she's a high school art teacher, and wow, she's encouraging young kids as well.
So why don't we stop for a minute about the book, and let's just go back, and why don't you tell us a little bit, because we're talking about bees, and I know what you do, part of what you do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are right now? Where are you living?
As far south in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, as you can legally get without being in Maryland. So I'm right on that Mason-Dixon line, and right behind my desk and my window is the Eastern Continental Divide. So I have about a view of about 1,000 acres of a mountain behind me
Wow.
in the Mason-Dixon line. So if you would put a push pin in Pittsburgh and one in DC and draw a straight line just about the halfway point, right where the Mason-Dixon line is, that's where I live. And I have about just shy of 4 acres, and I manage that property for as many flowers as I can get or bloom sources, because that's food, that's pollen and nectar for my bees. And
Mhm.
so I have 11 beehives and teach beekeeping, and I've been involved with beekeeping since I was 14 years old. So I enjoy that hobby.
And I have some of the honey that those bees produce, and I have to tell you that it's absolutely wonderful.
There's there's a little few jars that are up here on my shelf that I still have some left over. Because of COVID, I didn't get to go to all the different fall festivals and things that I normally sell out. But but it's amazing, a hobby, and it's doubly a double blessing, because Sandy and I work together on bee related stuff, and both of my first book and my second book, and she's already working on book number 3, which is a companion or a follow up to Created Critters with Wings.
Well, let's talk about that. Let me just read what's on the back cover. And there you got 2 really wonderful endorsements. Let's talk about that as well. But it says, it's a delightful look into the diversity of winged creatures and points both the reader and listener to the one who designed them. The stunning illustrations with hidden bee images, surprise, surprise, and the crafted rhyming verses help to engage young and old alike as they learn interesting facts about each animal and ultimately discover how we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, you have an endorsement from Andy Clapp, and also from a mutual friend of ours, Michelle Medlock Adams, who we both adore. You know, we just love her. And she, if I have to say that there are 2 people in my life who have been encouragers, you are certainly one, and Michelle Medlock Adams has been another one.
Thank
So how did that happen?
you. Well, at the North Carolina conference, Andy Clapp is a pastor.
Mhm.
And prior to the North Carolina conference that his church hosted for Serious Writer, he made himself available to, or the conference was available prior to, that people could actually critique books, but they didn't have anybody that was going to critique children's books. They had some people volunteering to look at that, and then you could sit down and discuss with them. But I asked and confronted Pastor Andy Clapp, and he said, I have 2 young daughters that fit in that age group. And he said, I will let them critique the book. And he said, I must warn you, they are very picky about what they like.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so in his endorsement, he also gives credit to his 2 daughters that read that. And they didn't call it Created Critters with Wings. They called it the Animal Book. And they really liked it. And that was when it was still in rough draft.
Mhm.
And while I was there, he suggested that Michelle look over and read it. So Michelle, amazing as she is, she took time in an already completely jam-packed venue for her. She stayed up late that night and read it and met with me before I came back, made a few suggestions. I worked them through, and that was March. And then I pitched to several different publications and landed with Shine a Light. They've market and target homeschool people and private schools for educational material. And we just gelled between Chris and Andrea at Shine a Light and myself. We just gelled. Their desire, my book filled their desire, and they filled my desire for a publisher, and I couldn't ask for a better match.
I just love that. You know, God has a way of just working everything out and, you know, opening up doors and bringing people into your path. And he has a way that we certainly have no way of figuring it out, but he does it. And I am just amazed at, I mean, I have been doing this, probably the book club, for 15 years, but just in writing and conferences and meeting people for the last 4 years. And I have to tell you that my life has changed dramatically from the people that I have met, the encouragement that I have had, working on my first children's book. That has been a real journey for me that I'm hoping to be able to pitch hopefully by spring, and to a bunch of companies. And so I get it. I so get what you're saying, and so appreciate the people that come across our path. But let's talk about the book, because I just love this, and I love that you have something hidden in there as well. So why don't you tell us what you did with that?
Because of Sandy and I both being beekeepers, and bees being very important for our environment, they're actually a good indicator species of how well the world's doing, environmentally speaking. So if you don't see bees in your backyard, there's something out of balance there. And so I kind of early on, that I'm guessing 20 years ago, there was the Where's Waldo books,
Yep.
where you found Waldo, and the kids really liked that. So bringing that back, but bringing it to my level and to kids level. When I go and do programs for schools or outdoor education, I take an observation hive with me. And when I do, the kids love to they can't, they'll press their face against the glass looking at the bees. So they love looking for them. And so I kind of challenge them to look for the hidden bees in the images of the pages of all of Created Critters with Wings. And so there's a first page that kind of talks about the importance of bees.
Yep.
And so that meets with Shine a Light's educational curriculum desire as well. So yeah, it's kind of like a first reader's devotional book, rhyming devotional book, but it also brings in some environmental education as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage them to go out and look for bees out in their backyard and other places. So Sandy, being excellent artist as well, did a good job of working and putting bees in different places of the book. And so I have to tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Monday, I got a phone call from a grandparent that received my book, gave it to their granddaughter. And now she's a little older. She was able to read it first. She made it important to let me know she was 9.5.
Of course.
Because that's really close to 10.
Yes.
But she said she really liked the book. And the grandparent called me, handed the phone to me, and asked her to tell. She had 2 questions for me about the book. So yet another critic, I was thinking. And she said, first she said, I really like the book. And are there any hidden bees on the picture of the bees? And I said, no, the bees are there themselves. She said, well, I found them on every other page, and some of them are quite hard. And she said, I really like that. And then she asked me a second question, and she said, the lady on the back of your book had on there that she wrote a book called Dinosaur Devotions. How would I get that book? Because I really love dinosaurs. And so I shared that with Michelle Medlock Adams, and she really liked that. But that's not the first and only one. I'm getting some feedback from grandparents and parents of kids that really like that whole combination. It engages them rather than somebody sitting there reading a book to them if they're young, or somebody old enough to read it for themselves. It engages them to dig a little deeper into the image, but that's why there's scripture on each page to engage them a little deeper into the scriptures. I just had yesterday someone that got a copy, and his daughter calls it the bird book, even though there's more than just birds in there. And she wants him to read it all the time. She likes it so much that I didn't even know Amazon had a global page, but there's Amazon Global, and he ordered a copy of it to send to a family in Holland.
Wow.
Because he saw how much his daughter and a friend of his has kids about that age, and so he sent it. So I just love the engagement part of it, that it's not just reading, and the kids want to go back and have it read to them again and again and again. So.
Well, you know that I love that as well. And because in October I did In Their Hands, which I actually had children's authors read their story to kids throughout the entire month, which was so overwhelming, the response. I was totally blown away. So anything to do to get books into the hands of children and that love of reading is something that I think we both share. Maybe you might want to pick one or two of what you have in the book and tell us a little bit about them. Like I know you have oh, I love the peacock, by the way. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and one of the unique things is that I'd like to kind of go back and say that makes it unique, and you would know this as well because you said you've been involved with the book club for so many years. The amazing thing was that for about 6 months, I was getting nowhere with finding a publisher. I waited 4 months for one of the ones that was really interested, but their policy was because of COVID, they weren't taking on any new projects at this time. And so even though it's kind of depletes you as an author of the excitement, you still got to go out there and hit the bricks online, so to speak. And the amazing thing is where most in the industry they have because of COVID and even outside of COVID, it usually takes a year at
Yes.
the quickest. And I sent a proposal to the company in July. I signed a contract in August. I submitted the completed work in September, and by November, I had the book in my hand.
Yeah.
So from contract to completed work was from signed contract, agreed upon contract, and I had to act as my own agent as well because I didn't have an agent, and we had to do some deliberation to work on some things that helped the company and also helped me. And that was amazing. And in an industry that takes at least a year, 2.5 months is unheard of. When that happens, you know that God has to be behind it because it's out of the order. I had other authors saying, how did you, I actually even had agents contact me and said, how did you get that done so quickly? And who can I contact from that agency? And I hope that your children's book is going to be stamped with Shine a Light publication on there as well, because I'm encouraging you to submit to them as well, because they are a fascinating, great group of people to work with, even though they're new. In my opinion, they're doing everything right. So then to get back to the content of the book, of course, it's rhyming and rhythm and words, and Michelle really helped me with nailing down some of that, and some online classes that I took helped me with getting that rhythm and that rhyming down. And a lot of people think words rhyme that really don't, so you have to really focus it. And I even bought a book that translates what we would say as a word into something into different age levels.
Interesting.
To use age-appropriate words. Now, that's probably more important when you get into some of the middle school. But when you have somebody reading a book to a younger kid from 2 to 8 or even 9, or if they're reading it on their own, you want to make sure that they can understand some of the big words, or at least there's an adult there that can answer questions. Because if they're 3 or 4 years old, you're going to get why, what's this mean, and all these questions. But it was actually easy I didn't have to go search for what animals do I want in Created Critters with Wings. I went to my first book and pulled off of the winged creatures. So it wasn't just birds, bees are in there and some insects, but I just thought that was a great opportunity. So I didn't have to search very long for that. It just, I got to focus on the words. One of the things that if you're doing rhyming work, your head gets into rhyming mode. And I remember the movie Princess Bride, and in a section of Princess Bride, they're impressing each other with their rhymes, but your head, you start speaking and talking to your family in rhymes because it's stuck in your head to get it. When you're in that zone, it's kind of funny, and you think of everything that's going around. You hear the pastor preach, and you turn it into a rhyme or something, it just starts to get in. So I got to get into that mode to to work with that, but it was pretty easy. One of the unique things, and I'll just turn in the back, is that the back page has images, because it's not really, the book really isn't about the created critters with wings. The crescendo, so to speak, is we are the created critters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I intend with the next book in the series, there will be two other illustrations of actual, these in the book are pictures of actual people that my illustrator, Sandy, knows. In fact, the girl is somebody she had in her art class, and she used that. But the very last page has this. It says, "We are unique, quite different and odd, because we were created in the image of God." That's the take-home message.
Mm-hmm.
That reading through all these different animals and even the books yet to come out, that's a take-home, that God thought so much of us. Yeah, the animals are such detailed and awesomely made, but we were the crescendo of his creation, because we were made to worship and praise him.
Amen to that. Boy, I just love the book, and I love the first one. I think I had told you I bought it and I gave it to my husband, who I was trying to find it. I know he's got it and he's using it, so I couldn't grab it. So so obviously is there an activity packet that I saw?
Just ready to give you a glimpse of that. This is the activity packet that my publisher made at their own expense, because they are so focused on the homeschool market. And most of those conferences have been closed because of this year, but they've put this out, and there's actually more pages. There's coloring pages, word search, and fill in the blanks, and all kinds of different activities. There's 35 pages with answer keys that you can get digitally or in a hard copy form that go right along as a companion to that book. And so again, other artists or other writers said, wow, we never, the personal touches that they do for their the people that they work with are over the top, and they are a traditional publisher. Some people say, well, you had to pay for all that. No, they're doing this on their own. They have a mission. One of the things that I loved about it, I said, before this book goes to print, can I call and can we have prayer? And not now. I just got 2 days ago a message from them, because I said, is there anything I can pray for you as a company, as a publishing company? And they give me first name basis only, but other authors that might be struggling health-wise or lost a job because of the current unemployment status. And so I'm praying for other authors that are in the Shine a Light family, and praying for them as well. And again, other authors are saying, how often do you contact your publisher? I would say from July to as late, or the last contact I had was this morning. I get probably on average one email. We trade emails once a week.
Wow.
And most people don't get that personal attention. And so I love it. If they get big, that's fine. There's benefits of having a huge publication house that you're working with, because they're going to get thousands of copies out there, but you don't get the personal attention. This gets the personal attention. They're targeting homeschool, and so I'm doing my own marketing. And I posted and was surprised that on my release day, or my book day debut, that even though they're just new, they have several copies or several books in their on their shelf for their publication. That Created Critters with Wings did 3 times better on debut day than any of their other books. And so that's a tribute to people like you and other Christian writers that are helping support and do a launch. My first book, I didn't even know what a launch and a launch
I
team
absolutely
was.
understand that.
So the community, it works whenever we bear each other's workload, so to speak.
And I think that's one of the things that I have found so intriguing, so encouraging, is that love and support. And I know for someone like me who never thought in their lifetime that I would be doing what I'm doing today and looking to write a children's book, like you're talking about. Um, but let me just go to somebody who may listen to this and say, gee, I have a dream, or I, thought I'd like to write. Um, what could you say to them? And everybody will say, well, just start writing. I know that. But what could you say to them that might give them a little encouragement?
And this I don't think, Joe, fits just in Christian writing or
Yeah.
book writing. This fits in beekeeping. This fits in a new Christian. Anybody else. Surround yourself with people that's been around that.
Yep.
That thing, that business, that hobby, that activity. And the more that you do that, the conferences, the online stuff that's so,
Yep.
Engage with online groups. A book club is a good way to start, just a reading club in a genre that you are really interested in. And, if you get yourself around there and start asking a few questions, and then ideas when the door opens up or the water gate opens up and you get blasted and flooded with ideas, especially when you're driving home from a Christian conference, you're just overloaded with so much that it's hard to keep. I wish that you would have a complete replay button for a day or two event, but network with people and find out, especially those, Michelle is magical at writing books. She's written over 104 million copies of different books, and she gets awards almost every time she enters.
Yep.
And to have someone like that stop what they're doing, read my book, help me, and provide some guidance, and then agree to be an endorsement on the back of the book is just amazing. So there's more than just one person that shares in that success, because as you help somebody else, and maybe not just buying the book, but helping and reading it and understanding that, hey, this has a bigger message than just a happy children's story or a suspenseful, because Christian writers have a God message throughout their writing. So I would encourage them, get involved with, if it's a local club, a book club, a writer's club, online if you can't find one locally, or just one thing an author really loves is when a reader reaches out to them. So,
oh my gosh. And and review your book, please. That's one of the things that we find that, people love your book, but they don't always do book reviews. And it's one of the things that it encourages authors so much.
Well, and Amazon kind of uses those in their analytics and their numbering and their matrices. My first book only has 20 reviews. And you're not to go out there and beat the bushes and beg people to review your books, because if Amazon finds that out, they kind of frown upon that. But to have about 1,000 copies of my books out there and only 20 people review it, that makes it hard. The magical number for Amazon is 50. When they see 50 reviews or more, positive reviews, then they start taking notice, and it gets brought up in their feeds a lot more as a potential book. So contact an author if you can, and ask them, hey, how did you start? Look at things like this with podcast or interviews of other people that seem like that they're successful, or that you want to, I won't say copy them, because you need to write your own story.
Right. Exactly.
And do it in your own way, the way that God wants you to do it. But you can surely pick up a lot of pointers along the way.
Yeah, I know for myself, I went to my very first event. I went by myself to Carol Kent's Speak Up conference, and I was so scared about walking through those doors. And when you go through those doors in a conference, you're going to find that the people there are so loving and so giving. And I would go along the lines of what you're saying about writers groups. I am now the co-president of the Fort Wayne Word Weavers International group. And so, you know, that's a great way to get what you're writing, to critique it, and in such a powerful and helpful way and a safe way. Because I know it's hard to give somebody your stuff and say, okay, will you take a look at it?
Right.
But I would just encourage you, if you are listening, and reach out to Ben, reach out to me, all kinds of places where you can get support and help and encouragement. So let's go back to your book. So this is, you said, the first in a series you're going to be working on.
Yeah, the second one is more than halfway finished as far as I'm concerned. My writing part, I've got a few more animals to add to it, but it's created critters with fur. And in the book, Sandy and I have already discussed, she already has the animals that I've already completed. So she's getting a jump start in probably over the Christmas holidays when schools are out.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to work on some illustrations that are already in the book. And then we're going to have a hidden mouse in all the pages to find. So since that's a critter with fur,
Sure.
and then I hope to branch out even some ideas that I have and shared with my publisher that created critters from Australia, because they have so unique,
Sure.
or Africa, and
I love it.
looking at regional zones, not just wings or fur or scales or fins. And so so there's a lot of different places that you can go with this series. So the exciting part is I didn't sign a contract just for created critters with wings. I signed a contract that my publisher has first right of refusal for everyone that falls under that series. So they want first shot at it. And if they'd say, no, it's not for us, but I think the relationship that I've built with them, they're going to want it. So
Absolutely. Okay, so how can people connect with you, Ben?
probably the easiest way, I am on Facebook. If they look at Ben Cooper, author/speaker, that's where I focus on more of my speaker stuff, or just Ben Cooper. And there, let me warn you, there's a lot of Ben Coopers out there. The guy that's most famous, Ben Cooper, made Halloween masks, and his name was on all of them.
Yeah.
And so people say, "Are you that guy?" And no, I'm not that guy. But Cooperville, just like the old TV show Hooterville,
Mm-hmm.
but Cooperville at atlanticbb.net will get you my email. And I also have a website with Serious Writer. If you go to seriouswriter.com/Ben Cooper, you'll find some information from me there.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, as always, it is so great to spend time with you, and I'm excited, and so excited that it's come out at the Christmas season, and I just encourage you to get a copy of this book. It makes a wonderful, wonderful gift as well. Just order it and have it shipped to wherever you want it to go, and globally, like you said, it can go anywhere. So thank you, Ben, for being with us. Again, I'm Jo Massaro with jomassaroministries.com. That's a new website that I have, which is the umbrella over the book club and lots of other things that I do. So join me and on the site, and I'd love to hear from you. And Ben, best wishes for just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful and blessed Christmas.
Same to you, Jo.
All right, everybody. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.